Engine 1 from Car 1. Car 1's on scene at Subin Command. Give me a CAN report.
Hello, everybody. This is Mike Goldstein, Stickers of the CAN Report, coming at you with Eric Wheaton. I think a lot of people know who he is. He's the man down in Florida bringing the CAN operations to everybody else in the world, and I'm happy to have him on the program today. Eric Wheaton, thank you so much for being on the CAN Report.
Yeah, bro. Thanks for having me, man. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm happy to have you. If you haven't yet, everybody, please click like, subscribe to all the platforms. This helps to keep it going and to get the word out of what everybody else would like to know about what I do and bringing all the knowledge to the masses here, especially in the New Hampshire area. Thank you all again for tuning into the CAN Report. We'll get this started with Eric Wheaton. We're going to jump right into your bio here. Battalion Chief Eric Wheaton, congratulations, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
Happy to hear that.
It's been a good time.
Yeah, man. He is a second-generation firefighter for the WinterPark, Florida Fire Department. He has served with the fire department since 2007. Eric spent the majority of his career on the truck company prior to his promotion to Battalion Chief, and he serves on the WinterPark Fire Department Technical Rescue Team. He is the owner of VentEnterSearch, LLC, and is an instructor for the Truck Company Operations Program at Valencia College Central Florida Fire Institute. Eric has taught at many fire conferences across the country, including FDIC. He also serves as an advisory board member on the UL-FSRI Size-up and Search and Rescue Study. Eric has a passion in health and fitness and enjoys spending time with his wife and 3 kids. Eric, thank you so much, man. This is an extreme honor. I'm happy to have you on.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good time. Anytime I could talk shop, I enjoy that.
Yes, sir. Man, so you're in sunny Florida. I am in sunny New Hampshire, but it's like 40 degrees and 40-mile-per-hour gusts here. So the weather is different. You got the ceiling fan going.
Yeah.
You got a suntan going on.
Yeah, it's hot, man. I was just working out in the gym this morning, and it was, probably 85 degrees and 100% humidity already. We're definitely, we had a big humidity jump, probably the last week or so. It's been summer-like conditions minus the full heat, 85, so a little cool for us.
Yeah, I can't wait to get into it gets pretty hot and humid up here too. So like for like 3 months, we get like 90-degree weather with like 100% humidity. So it gets up there and we get really uncomfortable and everybody wishes it would snow again. So it's a vicious cycle. So, you just talked about working out. So we'll talk about that. We're going to dive right into it. Dude, I've been watching you. You're always working out. You got a nice gym in your home, in your garage, it looks like. You really promote physical health as well as mental health. You've been doing a lot to promote that. Obviously we got to stay fit for the job, but why do you do it? I can't imagine it's just for your performance, but what else is it for?
Yeah, man, great question. It's to lead the example for my family, specifically my kids. I want them to see, and my wife does, is just as active in the gym. She goes to a CrossFit gym. She likes the more community aspect, whereas I like to head down, grind, and suffer by myself in the garage. But, they see that, and to them, it's like brushing their teeth now. That's just what we do. That's part of our day-to-day lives. And it's cool to see them as they get older, for them to kind of walk out and join me, and trying to, balance, trying to get my work in, but also being a dad out there. But, I've outfitted the gym where they got a lot of their stuff too. They got, tumbling mats and little pull-up bars for them, little weights for them. So they can come out and join me. And the goal is to pass and instill that into my children to have that healthy lifestyle. And that's probably my number one reason. And then, another big one is just, as you say, is the performance aspect, specifically work capacity is what I'm looking for. I want aesthetics, cool. That comes with that, but that's definitely, way down in the list. Everyone wants to look good, but for me personally, I want work capacity, and not just for the job, but for life. And, raising 3 kids as a father, as yourself, how difficult that is. And, things could get thrown at us from all different angles, and being prepared for that and having the confidence to be able to tackle any struggle that life throws at me, whether it be family or job. Being in the gym, head down, grinding day in, day out, definitely helps, facilitate my mindset on all that stuff. So
I love it. I love that you incorporate your kids with that. And I've actually noticed there's a lot more guys I've seen have been showing their kids what they're doing as well for their workouts. And I love it. I love seeing the kids in the gym with them, whether it's a basement gym, a garage gym, or even an actual real, paid for club. You see kids in there from 3 years old up to 15 years old. I was inspired to work out because I was a small kid, and I was easy to get picked on. So I started lifting weights, and I figured, if I get the beach muscles going, then no one's going to pick on me. And for me, my push was when I first started the fire service. I figured, well, I can bench press. I got big arms. I can do this stuff. And as soon as I put on the gear and I was moving hose, wow, that was an awakening for me. I couldn't believe how burnt out I was physically doing the first hose evolution, charged hose line, trying to move it around the bay. I felt sick, like I was overexerted, and I thought there was something wrong with me. And then I realized I'm going to have to condition myself way differently than I'm doing this. And it started. I tell people, I'm better shape now in my 30s than I was in my 20s, because all I cared about was just lifting weights. I didn't run. I didn't make my lungs actually grow and expand. And I just cared about looking good in a cut off sleeves and showing the guns. But I love that you have the kids that are doing it so they can understand, like, your job is important. You're staying healthy for them and for yourself. So that way you can come home and I think it helps too, right? Like you're not gassed at the end of your shift, because I think physical fitness also, even if you don't have a busy shift, you're still keeping yourself active. So you're not home just completely sluggish from either just sitting around and doing mundane things. If you have a slow shift, you're still keeping yourself active. So your mind is sharp, your body is sharp when you go home. Now with your kids, do you explain to them why you keep yourself in shape, or you just start hitting it?
Yeah, my oldest daughter, she's going to be 11 here shortly. And so she, she'll ask questions of whys and all that stuff. And we talk about that, to make yourself hard to kill type conversations, and the longevity for your mind and body to continue to live a healthy lifestyle. And that goes into the kitchen as well. They're very coherent on the food that they eat and the nutrition and everything, even at a young age. And in fact, my daughter comes home last week and is a little kind of sad that some of the kids were picking on her because they said that she eats healthy foods. And imagine the world that we live in where it's abnormal for somebody to eat like whole normal foods, but yet, you eat a Lunchable and that's normal society, right? And
Yeah.
if you pack some carrots and some hummus, kids are like, what are you eating? This is, that's not normal. But yeah, I mean, kind of bring it back to where you talk about coming home from the shift and being mentally sharp. That it obviously is a huge reason to be in the gym, is to stay mentally sharp and mentally confident, and to blow some steam, right?
Yeah.
It is good to go out there and suffer and blow some steam. It's been a godsend for me, to be able to do those things, and keeps me engaged. Like you said, once you get on the couch, man, it's hard to get off that couch.
It
So if
sucks
you
you
can
in.
come home, man, if you can come home and just keep that momentum going, it does wonders. And another thing that people don't realize, when you're somebody who works out often, and the guys understand this when they're saying, oh, I don't work out on duty because what if we get a call, right? Well, part of my training is my ability to be able to recover.
Mm-hmm.
And that I think about that very often, is pushing myself hard, and then how quick can I recover. And that's what's cool about the programs that I follow. It's a very variety of time domains, and it translates very well to the job, where there's short sprinty training sessions to long drawn out, slow grindy ones, and everything in between. And then some of them have built-in rest, some of them are just straight through, right? And so it's all benefits towards mind, my body, both professionally and at the home life.
I love it, man. And so you've also gotten into the Go Ruck. you do a lot of a different exercising as opposed to just being in a gym and doing those cardio core workouts, burpees and and working out your gear. But you're also doing some other stuff outside and really, to me, suffering outside, wearing weighted vests, and you're going for like, how long are you going for these marches that you're doing? You're wearing a weighted vest, correct?
Yeah, so yeah, weighted vest or like a rucksack, which is basically a backpack with weight in it. And yeah, I built a relationship with GoRuck and have been on their team now for a little over a year, and kind of a by accident how that happened. But some of my events that I'll do with them, that some of the longer ones are like a 50-mile, they call them a city ruck, and you basically just walk with weight on your back for 50 miles, and you have to complete that endurance event in under 20 hours. But I definitely like to supplement. They do a lot of work with like sandbags as well. They promote a lot of sandbag work. They promote and then rucking, obviously working out with your rucksack or a weighted vest, a traditional weight vest. And I found that those tools to mimic the job very well. Obviously we wear weight on our back, so having a rucksack with, again, the backpack with weight on your back feels very similar to SCBA. Using sandbags in training is uneven loads, or different weight loads, right? So imagine carrying a ladder in one hand and a set of irons in the other, right? So that's two different weights, two different, how the weight shifts. That's all can be replicated in your garage by wearing a backpack with weight and a sandbag. So I definitely like to supplement a lot of my training tools with those things to help build that capacity when I go to work and I get a run where I have to use my gear and carry tools.
That's awesome. Were you always like really into fitness, or did something like inspire you to be more into it? I mean, those people that just, I'm going to do the minimum. I'm going to get on the treadmill. I'm going to run, or, just a regular mundane workout. Did you always have a more intense workout, or did you develop this over time? Did something like for me, it was a fire that I was working and I hit that wall. And as soon as I hit the wall, I was like, oh crap. Like, I know I could perform longer than this. I need to be better physically. And so literally that same week, I got a personal trainer and realized I need someone to start pushing me a little bit more and give me some better workouts. Because honestly, when that happened to me, we didn't have this social media push of better workouts, and I didn't know what to go off of. So I was just doing stuff at the gym, and I know I wasn't physically pushing myself. I didn't feel the burn. And then when it got tough, I stopped. And this was about almost over 10 years ago. And then when I hit that wall, when I was working a fire, I knew I could be better. And so I just started doing kettlebell workouts. But now fast forward, we have all these people that are doing such great things for us of posting these workouts and showing that, hey, you can be better. Did that happen with you? Was there a certain situation where you just like, you know what, I can perform better. I'm going to start doing these things differently?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. So I can actually specifically remember what triggered me down this path. And I'll preface all this with growing up, I was always in sports, and I would consider myself fairly active and athletic. Although I didn't once I got, kind of in that high school age, I stopped doing traditional sports and was doing more, board sports like wakeboarding and surfing, but at a decently high level at those skills or sports. Before that was hockey, as far as more of a traditional one. But when I got on the job, I, uh, I I hated working out like in a traditional, in the CrossFit space. We kind of poke fun of it and call it a Globo gym, right? So that's your cable machines and your lat pull down machines and all that stuff. And so the gym at the time at the firehouses that we had were those type of gyms, right? We did have a gym in each firehouse, but it was your crossover cable machines and Smith machines and treadmills. And I would go up there and I try to work out with the guys, but honestly, I'd sit on the bench and just like shoot the shit with them and got nothing done. But what I did find is that I love being in gear and I love training. So I started, pretty much right when I got hired, I started doing gear workouts or air consumption fairly regularly, damn near every shift. And I felt that was a good fitness routine. However, that's all I did. I never lifted. I never did any CrossFit-y type thing or anything like that. And it wasn't until 2016, I'm at the beach for a summer vacation, and my wife takes a picture of me, and I got my surfboard in one hand, and I got, at the time, my only child, my daughter, in my other hand. She's probably 2 or 3 years old, and she's walking me out to the water so I can go surf. And she snaps this picture of me, and it's my back. And at that specific point in my life, I was not happy how I was representing my family aesthetically. A lot of people, if I showed that picture, they'd be like, dude, you weren't fat or out of shape at all. But me personally, I looked a certain way that I didn't want to represent, now being a fairly new father, having my daughter 2 or 3 years old at the time. I didn't want to go down a path where I'm getting older and I was not going to take care of myself, because I can't take care of myself. I can't take care of my family, or they're going to see that I'm lazy, or I'm not putting in any real work. And so that specific photo got me to go down the rabbit hole of training methodologies. And that's where I stumbled upon Greg Glassman and his work and methodology and philosophy on and how he developed CrossFit. And so I went pretty much all in on that. And that was right around the time where there were guys starting to post things about working out as a fireman. And I remember I was very highly motivated by these people. And I can't tell you who was posting stuff or what, if there was even like little brands or companies that were doing it, but I just noticed guys were doing that. And I actually still have this photo. I have both photos, and I have this photo of my garage, and I had like a big tire. I had some old out of service, like inch and three-quarter hose, and an old out of service SCBA and a sledgehammer. And that was my gym setup. And I even, I think I did a post about it. I was like, oh, look, I'm super motivated from everybody. I got some, just some cheap free equipment, and I started working out in my driveway and in my garage. And then, that just has been steamrolled into, my gym now, and the type of programming that I do and everything. But yeah, that was a great question.
That's awesome.
I do specifically remember those times.
Yeah, I figure everyone's got to have a moment in time when they realize that they can either perform better, look better, and just flat out be better. And I like that you also hit on, like, it's not just for your, at that point, it was for looks, because you have a goal that you want. There's something you want to be proud of. And for me, I know I'm never going to, I guess it'd take a lot of work for me to be ripped, right? But my goal is not that. Like, and I love that you hit on that. Like, you need to be able to, you want to work out so you can perform. And if you're not going to get ripped by it, like, you're not going to get these rippling abs and a chiseled chest. If it happens, that's fantastic. But the end goal is you want to be better on the fire ground. I mean, if you can get your lungs working great and get less gas, you get to have more fun on the fire ground, and you get to work longer and be a top performer, where everyone sees like, holy crap, Eric's a top performer. This dude is amazing. And it doesn't have to be a chiseled look. You don't have to be this Greek god. You can be, you can still have your dad bod, but it doesn't have to be as bad because you're working out and performing hard. Because honestly, there's guys I see that work out, and they're not, they're not models, but they perform, but they work out a lot, but they're not ripped. They're just good, solid workers that work hard. They don't quit in the gym, and they don't quit out in the fire ground. That's exactly what we need.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. And everyone has that moment. Yep. I sucked at that fire call. I could have been better. It could have been easy. Like, it doesn't have to be a structure fire. Working a car extrication, man, cardiac arrest. Like, I worked a cardiac arrest years ago, and I had down like 6 cups of coffee. I was hanging out with guys from the firehouse. It happened right up the road from the house I was hanging out at. It was in the dead of winter, and it collapsed on the side of the road. And we all ran out of the house and started working this guy, and it was an ambulance, and I'm doing my thing. And as I was in the mid compressants, all of a sudden I was like, holy crap. Oh man, I don't feel so good. Like, I had not been taking care of myself before doing that. I almost became a patient because I was so overexerted, not doing the things right, and drinking too much coffee, and now performing high compressions on a patient, and I was able to recover, but it was embarrassing. I felt really bad for the medic, because the medic's like, dude, are you okay? I was like, yeah, I'm sorry. I just had too much coffee and it just hit me all of a sudden. Man, so that's great. I love it. So next we're going to hit on truck work. You are a big proponent of truck work. I listened to your on Relentless Rejects, and I loved everything you were saying about it. And how did you just, for the people who haven't listened to some of the other podcasts you've been on, how did you get into truck work? How did you bring that culture onto your department? Because your department's not huge. Like, I come from a 4-station department with 60 plus members. Your department's almost a lot like mine. How did you develop a truck culture?
Yeah, so I mean, the truck culture was in place when I got on the job there. It was new. It was probably in its, I would say, its first generation. We started. We had a dedicated truck in 2003, so just a few years before I got hired. And at the time, it was a Quint, like your traditional, what people would think is a Quint, and it had 3 firefighters on it. But they moved it to an engine house, so it was running as a true truck company, because it was staffed next to an engine, and it was fully staffed with 3. And a year after that, they hired to run 4 on that truck. So then it became a 4-man truck or 4-man Quint, whatever you want to call it, with at a dual house. And then quickly after that, they outgrew that, like another year later, and the city bought our first rear mount platform in many, many years. We had one, back in the 70s, but in many years. And that's really kicked off the truck thing. And that's where our department, which had a kind of a focus on hazmat, was like in the late 90s, early 2000s. Everything was hazmat. 9/11 happened, and it switched over to special operations. And so at that time, and we got this platform, it was all in on truck company operations. So it was in place before I got on. I would say, I came in and was kind of kickstarting that second generation. And these are the guys that were like really, really into truck work, really, really into, for our department, we're small, so it's a lot of special operations. And yeah, it just it kind of fell on my lap. Timing was well. My first year I spent on an engine, and then at that time there's a lot of guys going through a medic school, and we have ambulances at our department in Florida. We call them rescues. And so when it was time for me to get off the engine and go kind of find my niche, I decided that I wanted to be on the truck. And so I did all my certifications. I was trying to get mentored from the truck lieutenant and the engineer, and got all my special ops training and my truck company operations class, all these classes that we were required to have to ride the thing. And I wanted to be on it. I wanted to be on it because it was doing the cool shit, right? So, like most fire departments, or where we have EMS and fire together, the medical calls can kind of run down on you and on the engines and our ambulances. And so I found it a little more desirable to be on the truck, because I wanted to force doors. I wanted to search. I wanted to ventilate. I wanted to dangle from rope. I wanted to crawl through tight spaces. I wanted to go into collapsed buildings. I wanted to cut people up with cars. I wanted to be in the hole when we get a gas leak. I wanted all that. And what was cool about that too is there's the only truck in the city. And that was also appealing to a young 21-year-old. When you're on an engine, you're kind of racing to be first dude to be able to have the nozzle and do the fun stuff. Well, on the truck, it didn't matter. Right? We could be there first. We could be there last. Nobody was, we might miss out on forcing the door if we're behind the engine. Maybe they forced it before us, but no one's doing a search. No one's getting on a roof. No one's diving through windows. No one's throwing ladders. That was the truck's job. And so I wanted to do that work, and I got that first bite in my first year, and I kind of just stayed with it ever since, and up until my recent promotion, I had been on it. So it's been, a good ride for me, and being in all roles and on every seat on that truck. It's been a good time. It's been good for my career, and I've had a lot of fun. had a lot of good crews that I got to work with and for.
Dude, that's awesome. What an experience to have that in your first year, to do all that in your first year, to just keep that motivation going, and it just kind of becomes addicting. You just want more of it and create more and have a better relationship with everyone. Is that how you then develop the program you're really into now that you promote? Like having more of that C.A.N culture. Is that from your experience of having a strong truck company in your department and having that motivation to keep it going?
Yeah, absolutely. So, basically how that program started was, I mean, the content and the concepts are entrenched in the culture of my fire department. And how it came to be was just a local a local fire conference. So Orlando Fire Conference was looking for a new class. I happened to be attending a class at the state college with the guy who ran it, and he was, he's like, hey, he asked me and my truck lieutenant, we were all there taking class together, and he's like, hey, we're looking for a new class, we're thinking about something with a water can, do you guys have any ideas? And my lieutenant was like, I don't want to get involved with this, I'm out. And I was like, sure, I'll just do what we do at the city there. And he's like, cool, what are you going to call it? And I'm like, I'm sitting on the bench at the academy, right? And I'm like, I don't know, can confidence. And he's like, all right, you're in. And like 4 months later, myself and my good friend at the time, Scott Ketchum, roll out this hands-on program at the conference. And I think they gave us like a 2-hour slot. We were like a part of a 4-hour class, a 2-hour slot, which was very difficult to squeeze some content into that. But that's how it started as far as that actual program. And side note, I despise the name. I still to this day hate it. But by the time I was like it was gaining traction, I was, I had some mentors be like, hey dude, you can't change the name now because that's, it's kind of the known thing. But yeah, it's developed basically off of what we do, which is in a nutshell, unless we want to go probing a little deeper the program, it's about
Sure.
searching in front of the line. I mean, that's the premise of the entire program, is how to optimize a search in front of the line. And basically being an only do truck, that every fire that we get, that's what's happening is, and we're a small city. I mean, I'm 9 square miles. So we're set up to have our truck company search in front of the line, because it doesn't matter if it shows up first or last. They're going to be right on top of each other, where they're able to get in front of that line. The line could already be on the ground. And, in my presentation, I have several videos where, you're showing up one of the last rigs there, and the truck's running past the nozzleman to get in front of the line and initiate that search, even though they were almost the last ones that pulled that e-brake. And yeah, I mean, that's and do you want to go any more detail about it,
Sure,
or
man.
you just want to kind of leave it at that?
No, absolutely. I love to for everyone to kind of hear really what it is, and I love that you developed this, and it is a culture, because I feel that it's a tool that gets missed a lot on searching, and I feel
Yeah.
that the way you present it, you're not just talking out of your ass. I feel that you do it with passion and from experience as well. And we were talking earlier how I got to see a small snippet of it at the CFT, in the parking garage. And even though it was just, there was no fire, it wasn't a strenuous presentation, but it made me have that mindset, like, you know what, I should be bringing this with me ahead of the line. I should have water with me. And you preach about that. So, talk more about your program. Like you said before in Relentless, like you touched on like the fact that how do you fill up the water can? Like it's something so simple, but you even said like, I didn't think anyone knew about that.
Yeah. And again, to this, it goes back to part of how it started was I had a buddy of mine that left a smaller city and went to go work for kind of a more larger city in Florida. And he's like, hey, what do you guys carry on the fire grounds, your inside team? And they run their truck very similar to ours, or basically identical as a inside and outside team. And when I got to a part where I was mentioning a can, he's like, a can even on a working fire, not just a fire alarm? And I'm like, yeah, dude, you guys don't do that? And he's like, no, nobody grabs the can. And I was like, and this is right around, I think it was right around the time that I got told that we're teaching this class at the conference. And I'm like, oh shit, man, there's something here then. And then yeah, you start teaching it, and it's very intimidating when you're standing in front of because I was young when I kind of got wrapped up into the conferences and the teaching things, right? And I was much younger and been doing it now for you know 13, 14, 15 years now, and so it's pretty intimidating when you're standing in front of a lot of more senior guys than you, and you're teaching them how to fill the water cannon. In fact, I almost didn't put that in the program because I was very nervous. I thought it was just like, I mean, like wiping your ass. Like it was like I thought that just everyone knows how to do that. And it wasn't until I got these like wide-eyed stares and kind of like hitting your buddy and like whispering in the ear while I'm delivering the content that I realized that like, holy crap. I think people don't really know much about this tool at all, which, ultimately gets me to go down this rabbit hole of research and my own, combining my own experience, combining experience from the guys before me and a lot of, FDNY guys and all that stuff. And ultimately, has developed this program. So, yeah, I mean, you're going to start off in the program going over can filling, modifications to the can. We talk a lot about interior door work because that kind of goes hand in hand with the can. So we'll talk about how much fire a hollow core door can hold back, and if you're in the live fire version of the program, you're going to get to see that. We burn up a ton of doors in the program, so you can see that.
I love how you bring it. It's awesome because, like you said, it's such a basic tool, but it's such an overlooked tool. And just from filling to moving with it, and you talk about even just moving with the can, and it's honestly, it's a skill you got to practice because it can be cumbersome. But you show, I love how you show how to work with it.
Yeah, it's not the easiest thing. I mean, and admittedly, and I say it, I think I say it in almost every program. It's like, hey, it's basically like dragging a 30-pound dumbbell through a house, right? It's not the easiest thing to do. So there's ways you can handle the can. There's some modifications you can do to the can to optimize that movement. There's you don't have to drag it in every 10 by 10 room stuff full furniture, right? So you can leave it out in a certain spot to, do a more hands-on search and then come back, grab your can. But honestly, man, the goal when you're searching with a can in front of the line is, we're searching for two things. We're searching for life and fire. But before there's a line on that fire, it's almost, and it's kind of controversial to say, but, fire almost takes your priority. Because I don't want to just get laser focused and searching these bedrooms, and then there's a fire that goes unchecked, and all of a sudden now the first due engine is having issues with getting water in the line in the front door, and here we are laser focused in these bedrooms, and then the fire is gone unchecked, and conditions get worse and worse and worse, and then not only put us in danger, but put any victims that are potentially inside even more in danger, right? So, you basically, you're going to get through that front door. I'll say use the front door as an example, and you want to beeline it to that fire. And we'll discuss, especially in our lecture program, searching to the fire, going straight to the fire and working your way back and when and whys and hows and talk about all that. But, that's kind of your priority. You want to handle that fire, give it a hit with the can. Hopefully you're hitting the stream with the base of the fuel burning. That is if you could take one thing from this can talk, like direct the stream to the base of the fuel. Me personally, I'm not putting a thumb over the nozzle when I'm directing it to the fire. The stream is already small enough. You're going to just further break up the stream and evaporate before it gets to the fuel. If you want to knock back that fire, and again, I'm using a one-room fire in my head as I imagine this, as I'm discussing this. You want to direct the stream to the base of the fuel, close the door, and then if you want to fan the stream with your thumb, you can use that to fan the door. Again, I don't think that's real necessary because the stream's going to hit the door, break apart itself, and then coat the door just fine. But I do realize that's kind of a tip that's used quite often. And anyways, and then you're going to radio to that engine company where that fire is located, and then beeline it from there and start your search. And hopefully, that engine company's jam up. They're going to get there in time, and you bought them a lot of time because you made a hit on a fire, especially if it's not vented yet. And you close the door. Hell, some of these new houses, man, you can choke that fire out pretty quick with less than 2.5 gallons of water and a closed door. If there's for our case in Florida, we got those hurricane windows. I mean, you'd be surprised how quickly those things can snuff out. And then, yeah, you go about your search, and now you really kind of pivot more towards searching for life. And again, this is kind of the details of what we'll cover in both the classroom session as well as the hands-on session.
That's awesome, dude. I love it. Like I said, even though it was a quick snippet of your class, I enjoyed every second of it. I was wanting more, and I'm excited to see more of it in FDIC. There's so much valuable information, like even like you said, like just filling it. Like, yeah, I know everyone makes use their def container to gauge that. Here's this nifty little thing that they actually built into your can that actually shows where the water's supposed to be. Like, you don't need to do that if you don't want to. Like, you're what I like about it too is you're not beating around the bush either. Like, this is simple stuff. I'm not showing you anything that you should know already, and but you're explaining it so well. And what I loved what you said about that when you're relating to that story of they bring the can in for fire alarm activations, but when it comes to search, when it comes to the real fire, that gets left on the truck. And we have that same thing in New Hampshire. And I was talking with a good friend of mine just last night, and we were talking about that same thing. Like, how is that possible? We bring it in for a fire alarm activation, but we don't bring that in. We actually have fire. And I'm not speaking for every department. I'm sure some departments do it, but there's some departments that don't. And I'm always surprised when I see that change. Like that, we bring in these certain tools on the ones that we know we don't have any fire, but when we actually have the fire, that gets left on the truck. Like, that mindset, I think, definitely needs to change and say, hey, you have a portable fire, right? Water right here. You don't have to wait for the hose line if you're the search team. Bring it with you. And I love that you're hitting on that. It's so important that we don't think about very often.
Yeah, I think with the fire alarms, I think guys truly don't think it's actually a fire, right? Because we just run so many of them, and a very small fraction of them actually end up being a working fire, or they're thinking, it's a sprinkler building or it's a fire alarm equipped building. The fire is going to be small, so the can will be fine. So it doesn't translate in their mind to the benefits of a working fire. And I'm going to tell you, if you're somebody or your department that's not going to buy off on the water can stuff, I mean, honestly, don't really bother me at all. But the one thing please do that most houses will have is a door. Please at least damn close these doors when you're searching, specifically the fire room doors. Again, that's a huge part of the program. It's damn near 50% of our topic is what a hollow core door will do. And I think it's a lot more optimal if you have 2.5 gallons of water with you and a closed door, but at least close the door when you find that fire room. If you find yourself, searching away from the hose line. Obviously, if you have the hose line, you go straight to, fire attack.
I love that. I love that you hit on that too. I think that's part of the training scars is when we're doing our trainings, we don't physically do it. We mimic closing the door, but we're not actually closing the door for various reasons, or there is no door to actually close. And when it comes down to actually doing the call, that's the step you forget. And I do see the trainings that people are drilling that in harder, like, okay, you've searched, close the door, and carry on. And but it's definitely more valuable when you actually have a prop that actually has doors, because you're going to remember that motion of having to close that door, as opposed to, okay, I closed the door, and then you move on to the next one. Actually having those props really is helpful.
Absolutely. So, and a thing on that our group's really passionate about, and there's a lot of groups passionate about this too, is outfitting your training centers to be like real homes. That is huge, man. Like having the doors, not only just having doors, and it's my personal knock on a lot of prefab burn buildings and things, because they have to follow fire code and building codes or whatnot, and a lot of egress doors, right? So there's a lot of outward swinging doors. Yeah, I show up to a bedroom and it's this big hunk of metal door and it's swinging towards me. That's not what this bedroom door that's right to my right here is. A hollow core door that opens inward. It's about 30 inches wide, and it opens to a flat wall. So when we're building out our training structures, it needs to have all that. It needs to have all that, so the attendees going through the program get that repetition, and they're able to identify what's a bedroom, what's a closet, what's a possible bathroom. I mean, hell, if the host has the ability to outfit these search houses as much as we can when we travel, I even want carpet in the bedroom. I want, wood or whatever hard surface of their Connex box is, and then if we can get scrap carpet and put carpet on the floor, and just having that transition from hard to soft flooring and all that. Those are all things that build that muscle memory when we're searching these houses. And then putting furniture, real furniture, soft furniture specifically, household items, the things that are on your hard furnitures, your picture frames, your lamps, your electronics, make these houses, these training houses, as realistic as possible. And in fact, that's transitioned to, for me, who's heavily involved in training, even in my fire department, we get a fire with the guys on the truck. When I was on the truck with these guys, and a lot of these fires, they come out after and say, when I was a lieutenant, it was like, "Hey, LT, that felt just like a drill." To me, that was the most, that's the biggest compliment that I can get as a company officer.
That's awesome.
Is that when your guys come out and they go, "That fire felt like a drill," meaning that we have put in so much time and made our training so consistent and realistic that here we are sitting on the front bumper drinking water after, doing 2 cylinders on this structure fire, and they're telling me that it felt like a drill. And that means a lot to me when I hear it, because all that time and effort and thought and my mindset has paid off to where these guys feel so competent during a structure fire that it just felt like every weekend drill that we do.
I love that. It makes me so happy to hear that. We pull and move hose lines so effortlessly in a prop building because it's a concrete floor. It's a concrete slab. There's literally nothing in your way. You're just moving around corners, and yeah, you can move that with pretty much no problems. But putting furniture, because I was really just talking about this morning when I was coming off shift, and we were talking about all these things that we were just talking about. And one of the things I said, you can have all the fancy techniques for your hose lines. You can do the clamp slide. You can do a knee walk. You can do all these great things in the parking lot and in your burn buildings when it's pretty much open space. Throw a couch in there, throw carpet in there, throw a coffee table. Now, how are you going to move? Because now it's not going to be as simple as sliding down on your knee and doing a clamp slide and hitting it and then moving it again, unless you're going down a hallway. But when you have actual real shit in the way, it makes it way different. Now you have to be trained to see how you're going to actually move. And hoarding facility, hoarding houses. I mean, that's the worst. Like trying to move a hose line over a mound of clothes and every other crap that you can imagine. So
Yeah.
When you talk about that, of actually setting yourself up for success, because that's where it's going to really matter, where you just said it felt like another training drill. I love it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I have a real world experience that went, where all my training leading up to being on the job was in your traditional training tower, right? Big wide open room, concrete floor. Maybe there was a metal filing cabinet that was laid on its side. That was a coffee table. And you're told to, don't come off the wall or you're going to die. But then in the back of my head, I was always like, well, how the hell am I supposed to search this 30 by 50 room? How am I supposed to search the center of the room? What if someone's laying in the center of the room? I never got that concept. And then once I got on the job and learned search from, our truck company guys, and then started getting my first few fires, and, when I was riding the search position, I realized that I never searched an actual structure fire in an occupied home like I searched training leading up to getting on the job. And I found myself basically, you're kind of bouncing between all the soft furniture, and you're clearing that floor space as you do that, especially if you're in like a nice tripod position. And so in fact, in my presentation, I take you guys through every room in my house, and I'm in a search position or like a live fire layout position where I'm on my belly, and you can see that how much space your body occupies. And if I focus on the furniture, the specifically soft furniture where we would, more than likely find somebody or that are on the floor, you're going to cover all that floor space. There's not these wide open spaces, on your normal, your average American, home that's, a structure fire is, 1,500, 2,000 square foot house, right? So, and my house size is right in the middle of that. And so I talk about, think of your own homes when you're either designing training or when you're thinking about training, or excuse me, thinking about fires and all that stuff. You want to think of your own homes and look around your house. There ain't a lot of room to just lay down a full adult in gear and do these burpees in your gear, like I was taught in a, concrete floor, 60 by 50 room. Um, so there's some extra thought there. Think about your own homes.
Absolutely. I love it, man. Training matters, setting yourself up for success, getting those training facilities, not just a big clear concrete slab, but actually putting really soft furniture, couches, chairs, coffee tables. That matters. That really does make a huge difference, especially if you're figuring out how to search. And like you talked about in your classes, you hit on that. Like, here's, you're going to search, but make sure you're getting behind the couch. A couch is up against the wall, usually making sure you're getting behind, up and over on that couch, and making sure you're getting all those corners. And again, if anyone's never taken Eric's class, you're really going to be really impressed. You're going to take a lot home with you, and it's going to be a great bunch of material that you can take back to your departments. And if you're not going to do it, like you said, at least maybe learn from it and talk about it. Talking about it is so important. And you really inspired me to go back and talk about this. So I think it's great information. Now, when you're teaching, and you hit on it before in other podcasts, you talk about the imposter syndrome. Now, like, how that's got to be amazing. Like, when you're teaching FDIC, you're with these heavy hitters, and I imagine you probably have that moment where you just sit there and go, "What the hell am I doing? I'm like, these are giants behind me who've been doing this, forever, and they have a wealth of knowledge, and here I am, like, who am I to be here amongst all these people?"
Yeah, yeah, I mean, absolutely. And like I mentioned earlier, I started, much younger than a lot of guys would probably think I should have started in the teaching realm and everything. But what I did, and to help the imposter syndrome, is I stayed true to myself, right? Like, I'm a small city guy. I don't flaunt that I'm a ghetto fireman. I don't, I try to have my actions speak louder than my words. When I'm in a room with, these heavy hitters, as you're mentioned there, I'm quiet. I listen way more than I speak. And, a lot of these guys are my friends now, man. And I think it's because I've just taken it nice and slow pace. I've had guys like Steve Robinson come up to me, and Ray McCormack, and all these guys, and they respect what I do, and they respect that I found my niche, and I've stayed there, and I don't pretend to be anybody other than myself. Really, and a side note, that's happened in my promotions as well, as far as like just saying myself through every promotion I've had. A little off topic there, but that's helped me throughout my career when I
Actually,
moved through my
I
career.
love that you say that, and I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But that's a really good thing to talk about. You just moved up to Battalion Chief. That's an imposter syndrome. If you think about it, like, you're in this high ranking position. How, do you ever feel yourself like, am I ready to have this bigger role in my department? And leadership, I think, plays a lot in that as well. Not just being a presenter, because sometimes, honestly, you can present when you're teaching. Sometimes now they're just going to be like, "Yep, it's Eric Wheaton, man. The guy knows his stuff. I'm not even going to question it, because now you've been in this circuit now so much more, and you're more proficient, and you have this trust built. But now in your own department, you're moving up, and they see you on a regular basis. They know who you are,
Mhm.
and for some people, moving up is a really scary thing, and they feel like that sometimes they're not good enough. They take the position, they move up, but at the same time, I'm sure they've got to feel like, am I good enough to do this? Do you ever feel that
Yeah.
way?
Yeah. Absolutely. Like, who am I to lead the shift?
Yeah.
For us, we're so small. You're a battalion level is the highest ranking shift level commander, right? There's nobody above me without going to administration, and that's a lot of responsibility. That's a lot of nerves to carry with you when you have a shift of 24 people, and being responsible for all those members. That is scary. But just as you mentioned something about trust, and trust when in my instructor hat, and trust when I'm wearing, now a white helmet. that trust didn't just, I didn't just take a test and all of a sudden expect people to trust me. This was
Yeah.
from day one walking in the door. Hell, even before, I've had great mentors going through fire school, and I remember specifically Matt Negley talked about the using a ladder as a metaphor on each rung is a step in the service. And they said, when we graduated, fire school, he's basically like, congratulations, you're on the first rung. And here we are, when he's talking, you're thinking like, okay, I got through school, I'm a few rungs up now. He's like, dude, you guys are on the first rung. And so it's having that, as soon as you walk in the door, how many times we've been told, every day is an interview. And that's true, whether it's, you're worried about who's going to be running your process, or worried about the guy next to you who you may promote, and now you have to lead this person. And so you have to build trust early on in your career, and stay engaged as long as you can. It's very difficult, and it's very consuming of you to stay at a very engaged level your whole career. I've been told my whole career, wait till you get 5 years on, wait till you're 40, wait till you have 20 years on, wait till you have 10, 50, whatever. And I admit there are times and emotions that I go through roller coasters, but if you saw in my mind, if you saw my graph charted out as far as how engaged I am, I think you would see a nice linear line. And all that's done is built trust. I mean, I still want to get in gear with the guys. I still want to work out with them. I still want to sit down at the coffee table and shoot the shit with them. So, I've arranged my mornings where most mornings I can go sit out and drink coffee with the guys around shift change, because I've done my chief duties and now I want to go out there and shoot the shit with them. And it's all building trust. And the instructor role, it's coming in and being back to the, on the job stuff, being true to yourself, being you. I've been me from day one to what I am now, at least in my eyes. Obviously each promotion, there are slight changes that you have to be in, right? You get more involved with the department. There's, you got to represent now. Now I have to represent administration and operations, right? So, but me personally, I'm the same guy. I still joke with the guys. I still, again, work out, all the things I mentioned. On the instructor side of things, same thing. You have to be true to your content that you're delivering. You have to own it. You have to be a student of your content, and you have and just slow pace. These guys want to come out of the woodwork and start teaching and be somebody and go to FDIC and all that. Guys, it takes a long time, and you just have to, again, slow pace it. I think what's going to happen, and I see it a lot, where you'll see guys like come out of nowhere, and then they kind of just bam, they drop off. And I think what happens is they're like, they didn't put the time, they didn't build trust with their peers, and they shot up, and then they get burned out, or maybe they're being a little more not true to themselves, and they get kind of called out on that. But yeah, you gotta just build trust in either genre that you're talking about. If you're talking about promoting, or if you're talking about wanting to be an instructor at FDIC, it's all about true to yourself, and build trust with your peers around you. And at least in my opinion, that's kind of my view of it, and what's helped me, I think, navigate those two aspects of my career.
I love it, man. It's kind of like it's a marathon.
Absolutely.
Right. And everything takes time, from learning the job, from being a probie to, and like I said, I talk about, like, it's appreciating the process and all of it, appreciating being a probie and learning the job, learning just everything that's so much fun about it. And then when you become the senior guy, learning the process of that. And like you said, moving up the ranks and earning that trust. And that comes with the process. And then when you have that responsibility of delivering education to a whole bunch more people that you don't know on a personal level, they have to trust you, and they're trusting you to deliver good content and knowledge that you've actually done your homework. You didn't just read it you didn't just Google it real quick and go, okay, I'm ready to teach you everything because I just read it on Google. I mean, you to throw curveball questions. And if you don't know that answer, they're like, well, you were the man, weren't you? I thought you were. You're here teaching this at this beautiful big conference. Now give me the answers that I'm asking you. Oh, hold on a second. Let me Google that real quick. Like, you don't have that luxury. That takes time and honing that craft, whether it's an officer or an instructor. You still have to hone that craft, and trust is a big part of it. And you've definitely done that. And do you find like when you're at home and you're at work, like does the leadership side of it feel more difficult than when you're actually teaching classes?
I think I'm a little more mindful of it at work, right? Because, that's my main focus, and my main career, right, is being a battalion chief for the city of Winter Park Fire Department. Like, I think I think about that a lot more, of how to serve those 24 members on my shift, and as well as the administration above me, right? Because I am that filter between and my size department, the battalion is the filter between operations and administration. And so I think I'm a little more mindful of it. I think I have a lot of good on the instructor side of things. I have a lot of good guys around me that run with me, and a small group of cadre members that it's almost on autopilot now. We've been doing it for so long, and our group's been together from day one that I don't know if I think about it in that matter, as far as that side, because I think it's more well-oiled machine by now. And but yeah, at work for sure, I'm definitely thinking about leadership styles, and how to guide the members, and how I want to represent me as a battalion, as a father, as a representation of the department. I'm definitely every day I'm thinking about that and watching my actions quite often.
That's awesome. Oh man, that's great. Now, moving on, you also have VentEnterSearch, and that's your company. What other? So, is that company? Do you get you hired out to teach classes? So, if anyone was interested to learning more about what you're doing, these other conferences, VentEnterSearch is that company to reach out to.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Honestly, the bulk of what we do is private classes for fire departments. That's probably a good chunk of what we do. The next big chunk would be a conference, like an open enrollment style. We don't really host any open enrollment classes. People get confused with the local college. We run 8 classes a year out of there, but honestly, it's Valencia, the college. They run everything. They're just using basically our guys and our content. But we don't, the bulk of what we do is, if you work for XYZ Fire Department, and you're interested in having us come in to do a training class on anything truck company related, then that's the bulk of what our training company does. And then obviously conferences. For example, I'm going to Washington, a department right outside Tacoma, Washington, here in early May. And it's a 3-day, basically really fast-paced truck class that we do. It's called Inside Out. And going to Texas right after FDIC for another kind of department-related class. So definitely, yeah, and we go all over the country, and everywhere in between for sure.
What's so you have obviously you're teaching C.A.N confidence for VentEnterSearch company.
Mm-hmm.
And then you said the Inside Out. Is there any other, do you do leadership conference teachings, or is it more all the hands-on, or do you do any classroom?
I have a lecture component, obviously, with C.A.N Confidence, which will be delivered for at FDIC this year. And I've done multiple ones there for CFT. I'm looking to do more for sure, but most of what we do is hands-on. And Florida keeps me busy with our 40-hour aerial operations program. A lot of Florida fire departments require their members to be on an aerial device to have a 40-hour aerial class. So that keeps me pretty busy in the state. And then, yeah, I mean, any truck company genre will custom build classes. Our core classes are C.A.N Confidence, our 40-hour truck company program, our 40-hour aerial operations program, Inside Out, which is the breaking up, basically the concept of how and when and why to break up your 4-person truck into an inside team and an outside team, forced entry classes, VES class, and a search class. Most of those can be in a live fire format, and then they all don't need to be live fire. It just happens to be most of our stuff is live fire, but yeah, that's kind of our core classes. Or if you got anything that you want to custom do, for as long as it's in the truck company genre, that's our niche, and that's what we deliver.
I love that. That's fantastic, dude. And so real quick, I'm going to touch back on leadership. How did you know? Because I had this discussion with my lieutenant, Tallheimer, and we have some really good discussions. It just comes up and we just start talking. And how did you know when it was ready to promote? When did you feel that you were ready to take that extra step, whether it was lieutenant, captain, chief position? Because we had this discussion on, not having enough experience going into it. When did you feel that you were ready and had that time in to be able to promote up?
Yeah, I took my first lieutenant's test. I think I had 4 years on the job and got completely humbled. I thought I was, your typical 20 something year old, young 20s, kind of know it all, comes in. I get on the truck pretty fast. I go to conferences. I'm kind of hard hitting. I'm like, I can run circles around these guys. I got this. And then get completely smashed in my first lieutenant's test. It humbled me so much that I never took another lieutenant's test and until I had 12 years on the job.
Wow.
I was 9 years as a firefighter, got promoted to engineer for about 2.5 years, close to 3 years, then got made a lieutenant for just over 6 years, and then recently battalion. And so I always, even early on, I wanted that company officer role, which for us is a lieutenant. We don't have captains. And I wanted it for the wrong reasons early on. Did a 4-year guy need to hold that position at my department and my level? No, not at that time, but I didn't know that. It wasn't until I got humbled on the test that I realized I didn't know everything I needed to know to sit for that position. Now, at year 12 or 13, when I finally made it, I was ready. I felt very ready. I felt more mature. I felt like I was doing it for the right reasons. I'm probably going to be a little honest and say that 4-year Eric probably was doing it for me. And because I was like, I'm better than these guys, I can do this, right? Then as I grow and I get more experience, I'm more influenced by mentors and leaders in the fire service. At that time I actually got made, I was more about I wanted to build a team. That's when I really knew I was like, okay, cool. I've now for 12 or 13 years have built myself to be is the best firefighter that I feel like I can be. Now I'm ready to disseminate that down to a team and build a team and have kind of more people, more of a team aspect. Obviously, as a company officer, you're in charge of your company, and that's what I wanted. So that's when I knew, when it switched from me to we. That's what I wanted to do. And then the same with becoming a battalion chief. I wanted a bigger team. I wanted more influence, not only the 24 people that are assigned to C shift at my department, but I wanted influence on administration, because like I said, that's the highest rank. So on shift, so I have my fingers in the fire on administration things now, from potentially building apparatus to our academy, to policy and rules and all that stuff, and then operationally. Now our department is an SOG driven department, so our fires, the chiefs, yes, they can obviously command the fire, but it's not like a lot of it's not a lot of discussion coming out of the chief buggy, right? It's basically those guys tell me what they're doing. Now, obviously, if I see something going a certain way, I can adjust. But you do obviously have influence on the fire ground as a chief officer. in that role too. So I was ready to expand the team when I was getting to the battalion role. I didn't want to take the test. In fact, in this room that I'm sitting in, my wife and I got in a bit of an argument when I told her that, we had a battalion retire kind of unexpectedly and that there was a test. And her and I got in a little bit of an argument. She wanted me to take it. She thought I was ready. Obviously, financially is good for the family, and mentally, just getting off the truck and just taking care of my body a little bit more, sleeping a little bit better. And so she wanted me to take it, and we argued about it. And I woke up the next morning, and I just shot out of this bed, and I said, I'm going to take the test. And I grinded through the test. I was scared to death to take the test because what did I do to my body? I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning to study. I'm very selfish when it comes to that, not in a rude way, but I'd have to come in here, close the door. My kids are, my wife's out there cooking. I got 3 kids screaming, but I can't go out there and help her because I got to put the time in.
Yeah.
Right. So I was fearful of that, like having to put my body through that, lack of sleep, stress, and all that. So, but yeah, it's a long way to answer is I was ready to go from me to we.
I love it. No, that's great. It's a question that pops up a lot when we're talking about promotions. In my department, we've had a lot of promotions and a lot of people leave due to retirements. And we always discuss like, when is the right time? Oh my God, they've only had 5 years on. Is that enough? And so like my thing is like, do they have enough experience? Not necessarily also in the fire service, but do they have enough life experience? Are they going to be that mentor, that kind of father figure, if you will, that person that the younger people can put their shoulder on or lean into and say, I'm having a tough time. This bothered me. And my whole thing was, if you don't have the life experience, can you be that figure to not, to console them and say, yeah, I've been there. I understand what you're going through. If you've not been through that, that particular call, that emotion, how can you console them? So it's a question. It's a great debate that I love to talk about. And, it's because everyone has a certain thing they bring to the fire service, whether it's book smarts, street smarts, tactic wise, operational wise. And, there's not just one person that says, no, this person sucks. He hasn't lived long enough to be an officer. That person, you don't know what he's capable of until they actually start doing the work.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And again, that kind of probably went into like when I said from my first test to the test I got promoted, I waited that long time, and it was to get life experience and maturity. There's things that I didn't know until I became a father. And, once you get in these roles, you really quickly realize how much people come to you for like personal stuff or just people skills. I mean, that's such a underrated skill set as an officer in any rank is having good people skills. I did have somebody reach out to me recently, and similar thing was, hey, I only have X amount of time on, is that enough? And, we talked about trust, how the people trust you and all that stuff. And sometimes guys, sometimes you just got to step up to the plate, if you feel like your department needs you, don't worry about a number of years. I think I personally would say is if you feel the department needs you, you have good trust from the members, then that's going to be your calling. Don't wait for a specific number. I remember when I first got on with VS, Jim Walsh was running the business, and I really didn't want to put my face out there until I had 10 years. He's like, dude, doesn't matter, man. You're a good firefighter. You deliver some good stuff. You have some good thoughts. It doesn't matter. And I remember I was in part of the imposter syndrome, right? I was like, but I have to have at least 10 years to have a voice or have an opinion about anything. And he was the one that was kind of pushing me to do like, no, man, you got something that's good, and you're a nice guy. You're not going to go out and be kind of a jerk about it and be untrue to yourself and who you are. And so he was the one who kind of motivated me that. But a little story to tell you, like years has obviously say in it for your experience, but it's not everything. And again, just each individual situation. The other thing is, if you're worried about getting experience, right? Because a lot of departments, especially small suburban fire departments, they're not going to go to a lot of high intensity emergency calls or a lot of fires, right? So how are we getting the experience? Well, if you're just sitting on the recliner and all of a sudden you have 5 years, you're like, hey, I'm ready to take this test. Even if you have the trust and good relationship with your members, well, you probably didn't do much to prepare yourself. So go get it from guys that have the experience, right? Go to these conferences, go to CFT, go to FDIC. We were just in Idaho at a conference. Like, go to these conferences and learn from everybody who is going to this work, getting work or doing that, and then learn from them, and then that's how you can get some experience if you're at a department that's not gonna take you to a lot of runs. I think much rather have a 5-year guy that's been super engaged with a job and learning and getting mentors than a 10-year guy that sat on the recliner and has time and seniority.
I love it.
Yeah,
that's you hit it right on the nail, man. That's 100% accurate in my book, at least. And we talk a lot. My lieutenant and I, we talked a lot about that, and that's exactly what we're talking about. And and honestly, the haters are going to bark the loudest, right? The people who are saying you don't have enough time in, or you don't have enough life experience. Well, they're the ones that either didn't put in for it or got passed over. And those are the ones who complain about whoever's moving up. I've always said, like, well, if you don't like it, I'll put your hat in the ring. Go ahead and put in for the lieutenant. If you don't, you really can't complain about who's taking that spot. You had an option to fill that void. You chose not to, whatever your personal reasons are. So don't shit on the person who, like you said, like, is dedicated, is passionate, is constantly working hard. They're either honing their own skills, they know their weaknesses, and they're trying to get stronger in those. And those are the people I want to be able to be humble enough to go, yeah, I sucked at this, I'm working harder, and then I'm going to move up into this position because I've grown from that knowledge, and I know that this is going to make me a better person. And like you said, you got to do it for the right reasons too. If it's all about the bugle, then you're probably gonna be a crap leader, and you're just gonna be shining up your bugle and want to make sure everybody sees it on your lapel and make sure that everyone knows that you're an officer, and that's not going to carry you very far. But I love it, dude. So Eric, dude, thank you so much, man. You have been a great guest on the C.A.N. Report. I can't thank you enough, man. This has been a great experience for myself.
Yeah, man, I enjoyed it, man. It was good talking with you.
Yeah, I feel like I could go on for like another hour if I don't cut it. So I am excited to see you at FDIC. I got to make sure I stock you out so I can give you some stuff that I got here at home, so I can give you some swag there so you can carry it down to Florida. That'd be great to see you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be there. I leave Friday, so I'll be there Friday to Friday.
All right, man. I'll be there the 6th. We're flying down on the 6th, though. We'll be there till the 12th.
Yep.
Awesome, dude. Well, thank you so much, Eric. It's been a pleasure. Eric Wheaton, Battalion Chief. He has VentEnterSearch company. If you need to reach out to him, he's everywhere. He's Instagram, Facebook. He's got the VentEnterSearch company. He does a great class on the C.A.N Confidence course. If you have any questions about it, and like you just said, Chief, like the fact that somebody reached out to you about promotion, if you have any questions, even those life questions, reach out to him. The man knows what he's talking about. So don't be afraid to think that you're bothering him. We're all here to help people out, right? And that's the biggest thing I always try to make people know is that we are open books. We're firefighters. We love to talk about our business, and we love to help others, whether it's the community we serve or our brothers and sisters. So if you have any questions, reach out to Eric. He'll be happy to guide you and happy to help you out in whatever you got going on in life. Same thing here. If you need any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them. If I don't have the answers, we'll work together to find those answers. And also, if anybody's struggling mentally and you need help, there's avenues to take. Next Rung, I always promote them because they do great things. Blake Stinnett is a fantastic dude. And if you need someone to talk to, Next Rung is those people to be able to talk to. So if you need help with that, you can reach out to myself. You can also reach out to Eric Wheaton. He'll help guide you down that road as well. So please make sure that we're taking care of each other. We got to stop eating our own and making sure we're taking care of our own instead. Thank you so much all for being on the C.A.N Report. And make sure you click like and subscribe, and let's keep this going. Y'all take care. Nozzle Tov.